Nazis. You know them, you hate them, you might even use a social media site owned by one. They've been the de facto representation of humanity at its worst and most vile for nearly 100 years, and rightfully so. The universal hypocrisy of their deeply held hate for others and their self-defeating pursuit of a fascist regime leaves them ripe for relentless mockery. And of all the ways artists have found to discredit, mock, and emasculate the pathetic dweebs, I found none are as cathartic as video games. Specifically, video games wherein you're encouraged to violently slaughter the fascist ball garglers in droves. Which brings me to the topics of today's video, Wolfenstein and Sniper Elite. Wolfenstein has been around for over 4 decades, going all the way back to Castle Wolfenstein in 1981, and likewise, Sniper Elite has as of 2025 been around for multiple decades, with the first entry releasing in 2005. My point being that both series are old as hell and have a long history of Nazi slaying. So to clarify, I'll be talking mostly about Wolfenstein 2: The New Colossus developed by Machine Games and the recently released Sniper Elite Resistance by Rebellion Studios. And more specifically, I want to highlight how they offer different but equally satisfying ways of annihilating fascist twat waffles. Let's start by going over the player characters. First, we have to talk about Wolfenstein, as it's pretty much the pinnacle of Nazi killing in video games. Having woken from a 14-year coma to see the Nazis won World War II and took over the world, BJ Blazkowicz is determined to start the revolution and fight for the oppressed. He is also both a surprisingly deep and unapologetically badass Nazi slayer for the player to take control of. I love that he has what the Nazis describe as perfect Aryan features, despite being the son of a Polish Jew, and that this is used in the story to help him infiltrate the Nazi forces when necessary. I was also surprised to find that he's got a softer side and a real devotion to his loved ones that, when paired with his burning hatred for the Nazis and all they represent, makes for a compelling and larger-than-life player character.
Hey, Wyatt. Love you, man.
And by extension, he's a perfect fit for the over-the-top world and narrative of Wolfenstein.
No, mein Führer, I'm from Arizona.
This is fucking awesome.
Like, the way he looked more appalled at that. Oh my god. Oh my god, that was... The guy from Arizona is Ronald Reagan in the Wolfenstein universe? Wait, no way. It's canon? That's crazy.
Yeah, because Reagan was an actor originally.
Yeah, no, I knew that. Oh my god, you could see the GAN. The RE is covered, but you could see it. Oh my... I'm like Leo pointing at the fucking screen. Machine Games, you are chef's kiss peak perfection. In contrast to that, we have Sniper Elite's Harry Hawk, who is a far more straightforward character on account of his narrative being less of a priority. But that's not to say he's a bad character, he just dispatches Nazis with a cold and deliberate focus on completing the mission at hand. His more reserved and quiet nature makes sense for a long-range assassin executing solo missions in enemy territory. Where BJ is bombastic and badass, Hawker is cool and calculating. Naturally, BJ is the more interesting character given he's just more fleshed out, and I spent 2 whole games with him between the New Order and the New Colossus. But I think Harry is the perfect kind of character for the game he's in, and he fits the more grounded historical setting of Sniper Elite. And speaking of setting, that's another way in which these games offer different flavors of Nazi-slaying goodness. Do you want a more historically accurate and grounded world in which you can pile high the bodies of World War II Nazis? Or do you want to overthrow a global Nazi empire in an alternate timeline that has you decimating fascist scum everywhere from America to the planet Venus? While the retro-futuristic diesel punk aesthetic of Wolfenstein is truly something to behold, there's something equally satisfying about how Sniper Elite has you clearing the beautiful French countryside of racist pigs one well-placed bullet at a time. Which brings me to my favorite thing about both of these games, shooting Nazis. Once again, we'll start with Wolfenstein simply because I think on the whole, it lets you shoot a lot more Nazis and with a lot more guns. In keeping with its bombastic protagonist and setting, Nazi killing in the modern Wolfenstein games is over-the-top mayhem that has bullets and body parts flying across the screen. In fact, one of my favorite things about the Wolfenstein games is how the Nazis get literally torn apart by BJ's collection of guns. The way you can just mow through hordes of Nazi bastards like a one-man army never gets old. Whether filling them full of holes or blasting them into chunks, Wolfenstein really delivers in terms of the quantity and spectacle of its Nazi shooting. However, whatever Sniper Elite lacks in comparison to the quantity of Nazis you get to shoot in Wolfenstein, it more than makes up for in the quality of its Nazi shooting. Got this fucking invader. Suck my balls, you Nazi fuck. The now iconic slow-motion X-ray bullet camera, for which Sniper Elite is best known, really does hold up as an incredibly satisfying spectacle. And watching his enemy eyeballs, skulls, and testicles get blown into gory chunks from a well-placed shot is really some peak Nazi killing shit. And even separate from the X-ray kills, every pull of the trigger feels great, and you can hear the bullets rip and tear through every racist bastard unlucky enough to cross your path. Moving on to the one area in which both these games surprised me, given I'm a relative newcomer to both franchises, their stealth mechanics. Now, I personally am a sucker for stealth in games. It doesn't even have to be done super well, just let me crouch walk around enemy vision cones looking for safe windows to kill them, and I'm fairly content. Fortunately though, both Wolfenstein and to a lesser extent Sniper Elite really impressed me with their stealth gameplay. Though to be clear, Sniper Elite is a much more stealth-focused game, it's just that upon reflection, this didn't surprise me as much as it did in Wolfenstein. Now, what I really liked about both games when it comes to stealth is how it encourages taking various paths through a level and prioritizing certain targets. And in both games, successfully neutralizing said targets rewards you with an easier path to your objective, which was greatly appreciated as I was playing these games on their hardest difficulties. Now, this is pretty basic stealth game stuff, but they executed on these concepts remarkably well. And on top of that, I found assassinating Nazis to be incredibly satisfying regardless of which title I was playing. Whether using a silenced pistol to make their heads pop like a balloon full of red paint, or getting up close and personal for a violent melee execution, both games delivered here in spades. And as a side note, I especially liked how in Sniper Elite you can time the shots of your sniper rifle to line up with loud environmental sounds and avoid breaking stealth. That brings me to another important thing I want to talk about, the presentation. Both Wolfenstein and Sniper Elite are fantastic looking and sounding games, and in Wolfenstein's case, it's all the more impressive being nearly 8 years old at this point. The environments you make your way through in both games are each eye-catching and surprisingly detailed. Not only do they both have great and distinct looking levels, the Nazi killing is rendered with incredible detail. Whether it's a brutal axe takedown or a skull-shattering sniper shot, these games really relish in their brutality against Nazis. I love it. On top of the excellent visuals of both games, we have some really excellent sound design. The weapons in Wolfenstein sound particularly meaty, as do the sniper rifles in Sniper Elite. Enemy footsteps and positions are also very clear in both as well, which is especially helpful when being stealthy. I should also mention that the Wolfenstein games and Wolfenstein 2 in particular have an incredible soundtrack that adds a lot of hype to the more exciting moments. Mick Gordon's work here is criminally underrated and contributes so much energy to both the gameplay and story beats that I'd start damn near every mission hyped up and ready to kill some fucking Nazis.
Brothers and sisters, listen up! I need everybody to get up to the roof now. We're evacuating. And bring all the equipment you can carry. Come on, let's hustle, people!
Come on, get your shit.
You cool?
Just make sure your people make it out.
Fucking BJ, let's go. It's so good.
Come and fucking get me, you white-ass, fascist Nazi pigs!
As I've mentioned, Wolfenstein definitely takes the cake for spectacle and narrative delivery, but Sniper Elite makes up for this by offering a lot more game modes to play. For starters, the regular campaign can be played entirely in co-op, and on top of that is home to a separate mode called Axis Invasion. With Axis Invasion, players can queue up to invade your world not unlike in Dark Souls. You're then tasked with surviving and or hunting them down while you work your way through the mission. And for people who hate that, it's also totally optional and you can turn invasions off. I personally love the invasion mechanic and find that it really makes every mission far more interesting. I do think that it can be a little bit much sometimes when I get several invasions back to back, but like I said, you can always turn it off if it gets to be annoying. On top of that, there's a set of challenge missions unlocked by finding propaganda posters hidden throughout the campaign, a survival horde mode that can also be played co-op, and a traditional PvP mode. Moving on, I also really appreciated that both Wolfenstein and Sniper Elite offered more challenging difficulty options. Both I Am Death Incarnate in Wolfenstein 2 and Authentic difficulty in Sniper Elite Resistance have been a ton of fun while simultaneously whooping my ass. What impressed me most about this is how I never felt weak despite struggling somewhat frequently. The way both games managed to deliver a genuine challenge while maintaining the power fantasies they're known for is some really terrific balancing. I may have died frequently, but I almost always got to drag a ton of Nazi bastards to hell on my way out, which really made completing the levels in each game feel satisfying and hard fought. Oh fuck. Oh, now you have. What am I stuck on? What? Okay. Oh my god, I died so fast I can't get any armor! No, what? There's another one? Oh my god. Oh my... fucking... Okay, this is bullshit. In conclusion, what I find so interesting and compelling about both of these games is that they share an admirable hatred of Nazis at their core. They really make every effort to dehumanize and mock the dumb bastards with zero remorse. You're never made to second guess your actions, and you're never criticized or questioned for partaking in the glorious slaughter of Nazis. These games can be so brutal and so violent, and yet it's almost like an unspoken rule that it just doesn't count as gratuitous or inhumane when the enemies are Nazis. Because it doesn't. Killing Nazis is just a laughably good time and always the morally correct thing to do, so gunning them down in droves is just pure entertainment. And the developers of both games seem to understand that perfectly. Thanks for watching. If you liked this video, be sure to like, subscribe, and ding the little bell if you want to know when my next video goes live. That's all for now, folks. Thanks again, and see you next time.